There is a lot of uncertainty in the world right now, a lot of change, a lot of things coming at people at once. And with AI advancements, leaders are starting to doubt the value of their hard skills and thinking about their soft skills even matter. I'm an AI optimist. I embrace it. I try to learn and apply it as much as possible. What I think is going to happen is that it's going to reaffirm the human intelligence and human connection. And again, that humanity, it will increase the need for human leaders with high EQ and demonstrate their humanity to their teams.
Welcome to the True Leadership Podcast, where we sit down with executive leaders to explore what leadership really means through the lens of their stories, their wins, their struggles, their vision, and their lessons along the way. I'm Ty Hammond, founder of One Mountain Leadership and creator of the True Leadership Approach, an awareness-based path that helps leaders shift their focus from what to do about their problems to how to grow from them. Whether you're just stepping into leadership or are well-seasoned and at the top of your game, your potential won't be realized following someone else's script, but you can draw insights from their stories and turn it into wisdom by putting it into practice in your own life.
Welcome to the True Leadership Podcast, where we explore the essence of leadership beyond tactics and performance by sitting down with executives to hear what matters most to them. I'm your host, Jessy James, and today's guest is Darya Chernina. Darya is an AI and human-in-the-loop operations leader at a real-time intelligence company where she scales global product systems and teams at the intersection of AI and operational excellence. With more than 15 years of experience, she has evolved into a strategic leader, building multi-million-dollar service lines and centralizing training data frameworks that power smarter AI products. Known for blending empathy with structure, Darya leads high-performing teams through complexity and change. She is also a passionate advocate for working parents. She has founded and led employee resource groups that champion inclusion, human-centered design, and responsible AI innovation. Darya, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast today.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you for having me, Jessy.
Darya, I'm curious, who is someone from your early life or even an early experience that you've had that shaped the kind of leader that you are today?
Yeah, and in my case, I would say it's two women. Rather, in my childhood, my mom was definitely the example of great leadership to me. She steered our family's boat through so many storms and largely on her own. And she was also very successful in her career in higher education. She was a chemistry professor. And once I became a mom myself and started advocating for working parents and hearing about their struggles, I was amazed. I thought, oh my God, how was she able to do all of this with 3 kids in tow? And then also it dawned on me that she must have been an inspiration to her students throughout all these years that she was teaching. And then when we moved to the United States, my very first manager at my very first corporate job, her name is Janet Nelson, is someone who deserves really, I feel like, all the credit for the person that I am today, for the leader that I am today. I was very young then and very new to corporate world and to a field of finance. To understand how many obstacles and adversities she must have overcame as an African-American woman in that field in those days. And yet she was a very easy person to work with and to work for. She led with empathy. She always had a smile on her face, a lot of positivity. And as I moved on from that role to other companies and kind of grew in my career, I always carried that image of her, kind of her smile, a smiley face, and always remembered her words of encouragement. And, this was somebody who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And again, kind of shone her light on others.
Yeah, and Darya, I'm curious, how did that experience inform who you are as a leader today?
Well, again, I think, her humanity, always having that positive attitude, always empathizing with those that reported to her, but also serving her superiors. I think that really informed my path as well, because I do feel very strongly about kind of notion of servant leadership.
Yeah, incredible story. What does true leadership mean to you? What makes a a true leader from your experience?
Yeah, and again, drawing right on just that about Janet, to me, being invested in someone else's growth and success more than your own is what true leadership is. And again, I just mentioned kind of this notion of servant leadership when you serve not just your direct manager, but also your direct reports once you become a people manager. So it's really not about your title or where you sit in the hierarchy, but your ability to see yourself as an instrument to someone else's growth and success.
Can you share about a time when you realized that your way of leading or living no longer met the demands of work and life and growth was needed?
Well, I think I can share a story of my first management role. I was promoted to manager at a small language services company where I myself was a fairly recent hire into. And I had a small team of project coordinators. And up until that point, I was never a people manager. I studied people management as part of my MBA program, but I never had people reporting to me. And to make the long story short, I did a very bad job in that first, in my first manager role. Initially, did a very bad job. And the challenge came when the team collectively went and complained. So they went above me and they went and complained to the COO. And then I had to sort of sit in his office and listen to that communication that they shared and, you know, what I did and what I said. And I think for me, that was a turning point because I had to, you know, I had to essentially accept, you know, that feedback. I had to take responsibility and turn things around. And this was a necessary thing to happen to me. So being called out on your poor, you know, people management skills, what really propelled me to think that, okay, people management role is different from any other roles that you've had before. You now have to take that responsibility. You have to develop those skills to the highest level.
And I'm curious, what did you have to outgrow or let go in order to kind of grow beyond that and become the kind of people manager that you are today?
Yeah, I think I had to outgrow this notion of tough leader, which again, I think that's why I did a bad job because I thought that that was expected by the company leadership of me. You know, they trusted somebody that young, that team, so I have to be tough. Leadership is all about being tough. So I took it probably another notch with my team, and hence the complaint. So I had to move away from that notion that leadership is tough and move over to the notion that leadership is human. So more of empathy, vulnerability, those qualities that really shape me into who I am. And again, positivity, kind of drawing on my first manager's behavior. I think that was a huge change from that initial thinking that tough is gonna get me that respect, if you will.
Well, so insightful. Thinking about your journey over the past few years, what's been the most valuable investment that you made in yourself, in your own growth?
Well, I've done a few things. I've done leadership trainings. I had a coach in my last company. I bought books by respected women leaders that I sort of poured myself over. But if I had to pick one, I think most valuable for me would be mentorship. And again, a story here. A few years ago, I sought out other women in my network and created a mentor board, if you will, because I never had a formal mentor before. I never kind of sought that out. But when I was promoted to a director in my last company, I was, you know, meeting a lot of challenges. I had a bigger team, just a lot of things coming at you at once. And I thought, I want to have those regular conversations. I want to have other people sort of in my corner. And I reached out to, you know, women that I admire that were in my network. I shared my idea with them. They were very gracious and they accepted it. And they were by my side for a year as my mentor board. And I'd say this was probably the most rewarding experience in my career because, if anything, it reaffirmed that we as women leaders, we share a lot of the same, probably experience a lot of the same issues. And it's really good to bounce your ideas of how to solve those issues, like looking at things from your perspective, but also, you know, having your voice amplified by perspectives of other female leaders was great. And I also think that experience put me in that mentorship mode where I decided that I also want to contribute and be a mentor. So I became a mentor at Alpha Sites in my last company. I'm currently a mentor at my current job. And I feel like with mentorship, you receive as much as you give, if not more. So if I could give advice to an aspiring leader, a current leader that has time on their hands, if you will, I would say be a mentor or work with one.
What's your vision for your leadership, your legacy, or the impact that you want to have in the years ahead?
That's a very interesting question. And I have a story for that as well, because I feel like it serves as a building block of that leadership legacy. In my previous role, I just happened to hire a lot of women. My immediate full-time team was women. I hired a lot of contractors that were female. And for many of them, that job essentially was really impactful. It changed their lives. Like I remember someone sharing that her family's farm in the Philippines was saved because she was able to make, enough money and kind of support herself and also her parents and save that farm. And they were sharing, they were moms, they were caregivers, wives, and they were sharing a lot of their personal things with me. And I ended up sharing with them something that up to that point I sort of kept very private. I didn't want to share with anyone. But then I ended up sharing my almost decade-long struggle with infertility with some of them. And over time, the team grew, more members. We did a lot of good work. And then I got pregnant. And then eventually I had to tell my large team that, hey, I'll be going on maternity leave soon. Here's what's going to happen. Here's the dates. This is who's going to cover for me. And then, Jesse, what started happening, our New York office started receiving boxes and envelopes to my name, sometimes several a day for months. And the office experience team was overwhelmed because they were like, what is this mail that Darya keeps getting? And they were cards for me and my soon-to-be-born daughter. There were blankets, there were shoes, hats, toys, books, you name it. And I was shocked because I thought, they're celebrating me. They barely know me. I'm this big boss lady in New York for many of them, for this dispersed team. And they're sending me these things, and even from overseas. But then over time, I realized that it was my vulnerability that made me the leader that they wanted to celebrate, because I shared something personal with them. And again, I was celebrated in my humanity. And I know many leaders take very different paths and maybe don't sort of want to overshare. But for me, I want my legacy to be someone who's led with empathy, who's shown vulnerability, who cleared path for other aspiring leaders by staying true to herself and showing others that you can do that. You can be that human that you are, and still be a great leader.
What an amazing story. My eyes filled up. So thank you so much for sharing that. Where do you feel most tested right now? What challenges are stretching you the most in leadership and life?
I think right now I feel like my growing edge is, trying to enhance my subject matter expertise, because with AI advancements and everything that's happening in the world, things are changing so quickly. It's really challenging to keep up, right, with all the tooling that is coming out, understanding how AI is actually going to be applied across various industries and functions. And so I feel like I really need to become a ruthless prioritizer, which I think every executive eventually becomes, and really focus on sort of that one area, one subject matter expertise, and hone it, instead of trying to be everything to everyone, which is impossible.
And where do you feel like you need to really grow and develop most as you think about sort of, balancing vulnerability and balancing everything else, and as prioritization? And you kind of said, I need to be ruthless in all of this. So
Yes.
curious, where do you feel growth is needed most?
Yeah, I think definitely, prioritizing subject matter expertise. So kind of the area where I work right now, understanding all the aspects of the technology that we are using and technology that we are producing, honing my technical skills. And I think, again, that's a challenge because things are changing so fast. So by the time you maybe learn something, it may be outdated. So trying to keep up and maybe move beyond sort of that surface level knowledge and say, okay, this is an area where I really want to focus, whether it's, I don't know, cybersecurity or data governance, or kind of make my pick, because right now I feel like I'm a little bit everywhere. And it's, like I said, it's very hard because you're trying to be everything to everyone and be everywhere all at once.
And how is that going to shape how you lead from today onwards, or after you do, achieve this?
Well, again, I think it will enhance my empathy towards those that I lead, right? Because I understand that they have that challenge too. And I think, it will probably shape sort of what I demand in terms of the output and the level of impact that, my team, like what's impact, right? What's impactful. I think that's definitely changing, where, in the past, the presence mattered. And I think right now, impact over presence, and knowing how to essentially apply some of these new technologies in the right ways. But again, for me, I think I will probably shift a little bit how I think about those on my team, and like what challenges they're experiencing and how to best support them.
So this last question is more of an invitation. You have the time and space here to offer to our listeners whatever it is that is most important in your mind, in your heart. Just share it straight, to all of us, anything at all. So take your time. The floor is yours.
Sure. Thank you. Well, first, I want to thank you, Jessy, and Ty, for having me here today and giving me the floor. And yeah, I know that there is a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. And like I said, a lot of change, a lot of things coming at people at once. And with AI advancements, leaders are starting to doubt the value of their hard skills and thinking about their soft skills even matter, over time. And I personally think I'm an AI optimist. I embrace it. I try to learn and apply it as much as possible. But what I think is going to happen is that it's going to reaffirm the human intelligence and human connection. And again, that humanity, it will increase the need for human leaders with high EQ, ability to emphasize and demonstrate their humanity to their teams. And again, build strong human teams, maybe with AI support, but focus on that. And so I think that developing as a leader is still very, very critical for one's professional growth.
Darya, I appreciate the wisdom that you've shared here today with me. I've gotten so much out of this conversation. I'm sure whoever listens will benefit equally. So thank you so much. Thank you for being on the True Leadership Podcast, and wishing you the best.
Thank you again for having me.
That's it for this episode of the True Leadership Podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this to catch future episodes. This conversation was brought to you by One Mountain Leadership, where we help leaders grow the capacity, confidence, and presence of true leadership through the True Leadership approach. To learn more about the approach, our offerings, our community, and how we can help you realize your potential in both leadership and in life, visit us at onemountainleadership.com.